Hello everyone, welcome back to Modelmania 3D. My name is Julio and today we will be building and painting Jessica Rabbit from our friends from ES Monsters or East Sea Monsters, however you want to call them. So let's get started. This model, it's a really nice model. It's only 11 pieces. So for I will recommend this model for beginners or you know like honestly for like everybody. It's a really well done model in terms of how easy it is to paint the model. The only kind of a bad thing about it is that the fitting is not the greatest, uh, and that's about it. I don't have any other complaint. So if you're interested in getting this STL, I will leave the link for ES Monsters on the description of the video, so we can you guys can get it. Apologies because this video is over 40 minutes long, so I know it's a lot, but believe me, it's a lot of information this time. I break down the entire process. It's not just the painting, it's the entire process, the pre work, yeah, pre-work that goes into getting the model ready for painting. I printed this model with standard resin, color gray. The brand is Mexico Makers. Many people say that it's the same as Hayo or Jayo or Sunlu, however you was gonna call it. They just rebranded, and that's about it. Like I said, it's 11 pieces and it's about 38 centimeters tall, which is about 14 inches tall, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but anyways, so what I'm doing here is I'm sanding the model. Many people have asked me, how do you do to get such a great print with no issues? And the reality is that I don't. My printer is not perfect, far from it, and it requires a lot of prep work. So a lot of sanding, a lot of filling the gaps, a lot of all of that. Not such a great fun thing to do, but it's necessary in order to get the model done correctly. This one had some lines. That little white line or lighter line that you see there is not an imperfection. It's just because I add more resin and it was like the color was slightly different, so it created that line right there. But it's nothing bad. So I use a lot of different type of sand sponges, sand sticks, sandpaper. I have the metal rods for the sanding, and I also use my electric drill. It comes with different heads, and to sand down the imperfection. Those little dots that you saw there under the butt, those are marks that the supports left. I always use light supports. It doesn't matter how big is a print. If it's a really big print, I use add more light supports. I never use like a medium supports or heavy supports because they damage the model a lot and it requires a lot more processing. Now, when I sand down my models, I never start with the very aggressive grid on the sandpaper or the sponge. I always start with something like a really light, like a 800, and if I see that the 800 is not doing the trick, I start going down like a 600, 400, or 200. Because sometimes when you start with a 200 on a model, like in this case, for example, this leg that it's supposed to be just skin exposed, you can really damage your piece with heavy scratches, and then it'll take you way longer to fix that than what the actual fix was. One other thing that I wanted to mention you guys about this model is that um, fitting fitting is paramount with most of your models. So before you start gluing and painting and whatever you need to do, make sure that all the pieces fit together correctly, because it has happened to me that I'm already painting and everything is done and like, all right, I'm gonna glue the torso with the legs, and guess what, it doesn't fit. And I ended up ruining my leg because the glue starts running down the leg, or I break them, or I leave like nail marks, because all sort of stupid things that happen, right? Now let's just imagine for a second that the print came out just amazingly, right? No issues whatsoever. I would still run or sand it down with the grit like 1000, 1500, just to make sure that there was no less resin left on top of the surface, and we really have a very, 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 very smooth surface to work with. And that's about it. Here you can see that for more like precise sanding, I used my sanding sticks rather than the sponge that you saw earlier, or like a sandpaper. It gives me more control and is much better. This model is almost perfect. I have some complaints. My first complaint is that this part that I'm holding is the torso, the hips, and the head together. I wish the head was separate from the torso, and probably the hips. And the reason for the hips is that you have to put the back of the dress on and then the front. Obviously, on one of the sides, she's showing her leg, which is fine, but the other side isn't. So if it's not showing her leg on the other side, then that part of the dress is supposed to be complete. And unfortunately, there is a lot of males and a lot of female counterparts on the other side. I'm feeling that gap because the dress has a lot of texture. It becomes a nightmare. My end result does not, I did not glue that part because I didn't want to glue it and ruin my paintwork or fill in the gap and get rid of the texture. So that's a really downside for this model. Other than that, I think that the model is great, for including another exception, which is the fitting. The fitting is terrible, especially on the arms. This is what I'm talking about to you guys. Like I remove a lot of the male connectors to make it like a more like flatter, like the fitting is better. This is what I was talking about. You see, it becomes a real pain. But anyways, this model on the left side, one of the legs is completely covered. Now, if you are a professional or advanced or intermediate or a beginner, just because you are not gonna see a part of the model, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't paint it. So you should paint the entire model, regardless if your client or yourself will see it or not. It's just like a base practice, right? And this is what I was talking about with my X-Acto or my knife. I'm removing parts of the male connector between the leg and the hip to make the fitting correctly. And that's it. This is a great model for painting because it's like a completely divided in sections. You have the skin section and then the clothing section, and you don't. It's very hard that you will mess up either your skin paint work or your clothing paint work. Really hard unless you really try to do it. Now here I'm trying to do the fitting. I cut with my pliers the bottom of the support, or not the support, the connector of the leg that goes into the base. And also, if you guys can see the base is terrible. It has a lot of lines. It doesn't look like a flat, smooth surface. So I had to do a lot of sanding on that thing. I think that the time where I spent the most time was on that base, getting it smooth. I was done doing everything with the model except the base. That's how long it took me. This model was also printed in an illegal Saturn 3 plus 12K. I think that's the name of the thing. Really good printer. If you guys are looking to buy a new printer, well, I highly recommend that one, because that's the only one that I have, and I have never had problems other than these imperfections that you see. But most of the printers they're not perfect. Now with my drill, I'm sanding down the edges of the female connector to make the fitting better. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to see me using my Exacto right there, trying to make the perfect fit. So the arms were a nightmare. The male connector was way longer than it's supposed to be. It didn't fit in the female connector. I ended up removing them completely. It doesn't even allow you enough space to drill a hole and put magnets so the arms can hold, by themselves. So it was really challenging. But just because I'm saying it's challenging, don't let that discourage you, because it's a great model. It's a really fun model to paint. And that's about it. There I go again with the drill to make the connection wider so the other part can fit in. Now for the hair, after I print it and I wash it, I sand it off. Why? Because before you cure it, if you sand correctly, it will save you a lot of time, because the resin is still really soft, and it can reduce the post-processing time significantly down. So there is another tip or an advice: if you guys don't want to spend too much time on the sanding and post-processing, probably before you cure, it will be a great idea to sand down some of the pieces. Now here are the arms, and as you can notice, they have damage because that's where the supports were touching. I never go up and down like you just saw. I grab a sand stick and I go one by one imperfection by one imperfection. The reason why is because I'm more precise. I won't damage other areas, and since the gloves also have texture, it's really hard not to get rid of the texture. So we want to do it really smoothly, softly. Take your time, sand down a little bit, remove the dust, touch it with your finger, make sure that you don't have anything there, and repeat the process as many times as necessary. Don't overdo it, don't do it really hard. When I'm sanding my models, I don't apply a lot of pressure because I don't want to make deformations on my model. You can see it right there, it's like a sore thumb. The imperfections are really visible. However, since the gloves are going to be dark purple, that's going to help us to mask or hide some of those imperfections. Nevertheless, we will have to try our very best to make sure that we get rid of those. And some of those I'm gonna work on in both arms. I'm not gonna bother you with showing you how I did both, but when we start painting, the imperfections will come back, right? Here I am. I don't know how long I spent trying to sand that thing down to make it completely flat and beautiful. It was a lot. So, and the only reason that this is happening is because how it came out from the printer. Probably if I had a different angle of when I was printing this part, it would have been different. Or if I had a bigger print, I couldn't make it sit flat or something on the base of the printer, and it would have been easier. I don't have that tool, it's an electric sand tool. You can get it on Amazon or Home Depot. So everything was sand down by hand. Please use a respirator, use a mask when you're doing this thing. I have a terrible experience to tell you about this model, guys. The dust flies all over the place, gets into your lungs, and kills you slowly but surely. But anyways, now we're done sanding, filling gaps, everything. We're gonna start painting. We're gonna paint the clothes first, and we're gonna put it aside, and we're gonna move on and start doing our skin. So for the clothes, we're gonna do a pre-shadow, a pre-light, and the color base. So we're gonna start using our Vallejo color, or Vallejo color is black, is from the model color series, and is the 70950. I diluted this with water. It's 60% water, 40% color, and I'm applying the black on all the areas we're supposed to have a shade. Now, You might say, why do you do that if you can have natural shade if you put a light right on top of the model? Well, yeah, but some people put the models in cases where it has light and it kills the natural light. So I'm forcing shadows and light, if we want to put it that way. Now I am using the color white from Model Air Vallejo, is the 71001. Same thing, 60% water, 40% paint, and I'm gonna apply this color on all the areas where I want to have highlights. Now remember, we have very transparent colors. Red, orange, and yellow are transparent colors. If we want to achieve the color that comes in the bottle, how it looks in the bottle, we have to apply or create a white base. Okay? So just keep that in mind. In this case, if you notice, I have three variants of colors: the black, the gray, and the white, right? So each one of those is gonna give me a different color. The gray, it will be, if you want to put it in this way, is gonna be my base color. The white plus the red gives me the highlight, and the black plus the red gives me my shadows. Now the base color, the red one, is the Scarlet Blood from Vallejo Game Color, is the 72106. Is diluted 80% water, 20% paint, and please make sure that in the chest area, or this part, the upper part of the dress, you paint the sides, because those will be exposed on the model. Remember to apply thin layers of paint, and so we start building up what we want, right? If we apply too much red over the black area, then we will get rid of the black and it will be just red, and that's not what we want. As a reminder, for transparent colors such as red, orange, and yellow, if you the color will interact with the base color that you have. For example, if you printed your model in a gray resin, like I did, the red will look like this. It's more like a dark red. Now, if you would have used black resin, then it will be like extremely hardcore red, right? Really like a opaque, or like a, I don't know, like a weird red. If you want an intense red, then we have to use a white base. Now this dress has to be painted the outside and the inside, because since it's an open dress, people will be able to see the leg and whatever is behind the leg, which is the dress. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so these three colors are pretty much our base colors for the dress. Now we're going to add the effect, and the effect is going to be done with a metallic red paint. This paint, you can find it on Amazon. It's an acrylic paint from the brand is Aber is ABEIER. This is the color red. It's about 2 ounces bottles, so they're pretty big. They last a long time. However, the paint is really thick, so you have to dilute it a lot. What this does, if you apply heavy coats, or one after another, you're gonna have like an amazing metallic finish. But if you do what I'm doing, which is just only one coat, highly diluted, is going to create like a sparkles. Now, if you guys remember the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, she's a cartoon, right? So in the cartoon, her dress is always sparkly. So this is what it creates, that effect. To be honest with you guys, the pictures and the video don't do justice to the model, and I'm being modest. I'm not trying to be cocky, like, oh my god, I did such a great model. I did though, but if you look at it in person, it's like a wow, like it shines, it captures the light and starts like blinking. Anyways, I got excited there for a second. Apologies. Now, for our gloves, we're gonna use Vallejo from the series model color, purple 70959, 80% water or thinner, 20% paint, and we're gonna apply it, like a general coat. When I was doing this, I started seeing more imperfections, so I had to stop. I have to sand again and come back and repaint over. Most people, I'm gonna tell you something. If you have a model and your paint work looks like shit, your model is gonna look okay. But if you have a model with great paint, like an amazing paint job, but you didn't clean your model the right way, like I'm saying, if you see holes or bumps from the supports, or you have I have seen a lot of pictures of people posting their models and they have like a hair or like dust trapped under the skin. It doesn't matter how great is your paint job, it's gonna look like shit. So please make sure to do the prep work. I know that it's annoying, nobody likes to do that, and it takes a long time, but it's worth it. Okay, now I'm going to mix the same purple 50-50 with the white that I use for the highlights, and I'm gonna apply this color as a highlight on top of the hands, the knuckles and the fingers and the tricep and part of the elbow, and it's going to create like a lot of contrast. You can see it there right already. It's a lot of contrast, and you might say well, it's gonna look kind of bad, So well, don't worry guys, because we're gonna use another metallic paint from the same brand, a Bayer or whatever, the purple one, highly diluted, and that's gonna blend the two colors, the base color, the purple, and the highlight with that purple is gonna blend it, and it's gonna give it a really cool natural finish. Now for the hair, I was having a lot of issues with my airbrush, so I couldn't record everything when I was painting the hair, and the reason was because the nozzle was blocked. So I use a base color. Remember, orange is a transparent color, and transparent is the pigmentation in those colors, red, orange and yellow, they are not strong enough or saturated enough to provide you what they need, so you need to put a base color. I use orange brown from the model color series from Vallejo. It's a 70931, I believe, but it's called orange brown. And once I did that, it was 50-50 the mixture, water, paint, and then I apply the orange fire from Game Color Vallejo 72008 in 50-15 dilution. Okay, now I'm painting the underwear, the panties, and as you saw, is on one side it sticks out, the side, so I apply white and then red, and the other part where it's not gonna be hidden by the light, it's just I didn't apply the white. For the high heels, since they're gonna be like a super bright shiny red, I apply the white in both high heels, and then I apply the red color that we use for the dress. Once I finish my dress and my underwear, for the dress I use a clear coat for metal varnish from Vallejo. I use metal varnish to cover my paintwork. Okay, and for the underwear I use satin acrylic varnish also from Vallejo. Alrighty, now I'm using liquid mask from Vallejo to cover the high heels, because I'm about to start painting the skin colors. So it's really important that we don't get skin color paint on our high heels. And I decided to paint the high heels before because it will be easier in case that I messed up something like overspray paint on the heels from the skin color. It will be easier for me to grab a brush and retouch that part with red than painting the skin color first, and then I paint the red on the heels and I overspray my skin color. It's gonna be almost impossible to me to match the skin color again. So that's why I'm doing it this way. I'm gonna let it dry. Once it's dried, I'm gonna put masking tape from Tamiya, and I will protect most of the heel. Okay. Alright, so another thing that I wanted to let you know, I use a chopper compressor with chopper airbrush the psi on my compressor was 1 bar or 10 psi or 1 psi. I don't know. I think that is 10 psi. Yes, and just in case that you guys want to know, I sprayed about 6 inches, 7 inches away from the model. All the colors were the same pressure, everything was the same. Now, for my first base color for the skin, I'm using model color from Vallejo. The color is pink and is the 70958 on a mixture of 50-50, 50 water, 50 paint percentages, and I apply all over the model like you guys are seeing here, very generous. Again, I'm painting and I'm seeing more imperfections on the back of the Jessica Rabbit, so I have to stop, sand it down, and continue. If you guys don't apply light coats of paint, like a thin layers, you guys gonna create like a thick layer of paint, and if you have to sand down because there's an imperfection, then it's gonna be like a bump there, and it's gonna look stupid. So please remember, thin layers of paint will go a long way rather than one heavy, thick layer. Now for the red that is gonna create like the reddish tone of the skin, I'm using flat red from Vallejo model color 70957. I diluted this 80% water, 20% paint, and I applied that all over the legs and the torso. Now, my first skin color tone is going to be Natural Flesh from Vallejo from the Nocturna series, is the 74006 in a mixture of 70% water, 30% paint, and I'm applying all over the legs. However, I'm kind of like not paying a lot of attention on the knee because I want the knee to look more reddish, right? And under the butt. So where the butt and the thigh meets is more reddish than anything else, and you guys can see this. Why I'm diluting my paint this way? Because I want to let my previous paint see through my new coat, and you will be able to see it here. You can see the big difference between the pink reddish color rather than new skin color. However, now this skin color kind of looks like reddish, like a kind of a patchy color. Here I don't apologize for saying what it is, right? So if you're white, you're white. If you're black, you're black. If you're brown, you're brown. And if you're red, you're red. So that's what it is. Make sure that your airbrush is working in perfect condition, otherwise you're gonna have splatters all over the place, and you don't want that. Now, our next skin color is Pale Flesh from Vallejo. Okay, Air is the 76003, diluted 70% water, 30% paint, and I am applying it all over the model. It's not from bottom to top or top to bottom, no, it's just all over the model. However, I'm making sure that I'm leaving the shading, the color of the previous work, see-through on the underneath part, such as the bottom of the jaw, between the breast and the armpits and that kind of stuff. And on the legs is going to be the same, the knee and under the butt cheek. And you guys can see it right here. I'm going, I let it dry. Now keep in mind another thing, depends where you live and the levels of humidity, how quickly your paint will dry. Where I live is kind of dry, semi-dry, so my paint dries very quickly, so I can spray and I put the thing down and it's gonna be fine, no problem whatsoever. But some other people could be living, for example, in Florida, and the paint will take way longer to dry. Now we're gonna apply the highlights. For the highlights, I'm gonna be using the Nocturna series from Vallejo. It's called Highlight Skin 74008. 80% water, 20% paint, and I'm just applying it kind of heavy on the zenithal light. That's how I think how it's called. It's from top to bottom, so it's forehead, chin, cheeks, bone cheeks, nose, the upper breast, the shoulders, and the clavicle, and that was about it. So once I finish doing that, because that's my all my skin work, I cover my entire skin with satin varnish from Vallejo. I apply 2 coats. Now, we are working on the eyebrows, and remember, the eyebrows are the same color as the hair. Since it's a transparent color, we have to first apply a white base. So I painted the eyebrows white so I can apply the orange. So the orange can be the color as it shows in the bottle, and it's bright and it's vibrant. I'm using an angle brush that removes the handle out of my vision, because that angle that I'm talking about is like a 25 angle. It's a number 0, it's nylon, so it's a synthetic brush, and it's helping me a lot to do this. All the details that I did on this model was done with that brush. Just remember to clean it with thinner, Vallejo thinner, after every paint change. Okay, so right now I fast forwarded, or like increased the speed of the video, because it took me like no kidding guys, just to paint the eyebrows like 20 minutes. I was trying to be very diligent, not, or making sure not to mess my skin paint. Now that's why we apply the satin varnish, to protect the paint in case that we make a mistake. And how do we correct those mistakes? Well, very easily. You can have right next to you a little bit of water and a clean brush, and if you happen to paint orange where you didn't supposed to, you can quickly dip your brush in that clean water and remove it, because we're working with acrylics. So now for the white part of the eye, which I don't know how to say that in English, and I do apologize, I'm using white gray from Vallejo 70993, and I just covered the entire eye. Now you saw the head of Cyclops. That's a head that doesn't work, and I was doing some paint tasting there. I'm using blue violet from Vallejo 70811 to paint the eyelids, or the eyes, I don't know how you call it, like the makeup. So when you only paint one eye with this, it looks like she was in like a fight. Mike Tyson got pissed off and made her pay for all her sins and whatnot. This model is so well done that it's like there are limits or delimitations on each section or part of the model that would allow you to do it really easily. I'm diluting this paint just with a little bit of water. Just be careful to don't have your paint too runny, otherwise it's gonna get all over your face, and you don't want that. Right now, disclaimer, I only paint one eye, like the actual eye, because the other one is covered with the hair, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't paint eyes often enough to be really proficient or really good doing that. So if you guys want to get really good at painting eyes, I would recommend paint like 4 or 5 faces and just practice. Practice away. Like that's the only thing that you will be doing. Now for the eyelashes, yes, eyelashes, I'm using the black color that I used previously for the pre-shading. So it's black 70950, diluted with water to paint the eyebrows. And now I'm using the reddish flesh from Nocturna Vallejo 74003 to paint the inner eyelid. I think that's how it's called, that reddish thing. Now I'm far from being perfect on making eyes. I have seen guys that make eyes that the first pass is boom 100%. I didn't, so I have to do a lot of touch up or fixing my previous work. So I'm using again the white gray, because I got a lot of the reddish color on the white, so I'm making the new delimitations or limits, or just doing a touch up there. I'm using a ultra fine brush, is 9 millimeters. You can barely see the brush because of how fine it is. I have a 15 millimeters, 13 millimeters, 9 millimeters, and 7. The 7 is the smallest. I'm using a 9, and right now I'm going back here with the 0 with the angle brush. I'm using the black again to do the cornea or iris, I don't know how to call it, the black part of the eye, whatever that is. Now with me, I have right next to me all the time a picture of Jessica Rabbit, especially her eyes, because it's the most important thing. And to know how big the eye had to be, like the black of the eye, the iris, sorry, like cornea or whatever, what I do is to see how much white was left on each side of the eye. I don't know if I'm making sense on what I'm saying, and if I don't, well, sorry. So that's how I can get it, almost perfect. I say almost because it wasn't perfect. I'm gonna do a close-up in a second. Now for the color of the eye, she has green eyes, and I use the lime green from Vallejo 70827. You will see it in a second. Again, I had a lot of issues because my paint was getting dry really quickly. So just keep that in mind. Also make sure that your paint is not too runny, otherwise your color is gonna get all over your eye, and it's a bummer, Here I'm moving the model up, down, left, right, trying to find the right angle. I normally use like a magnifying glass to do this. I couldn't use it because I was recording, but there you go, guys. It looks almost perfect, right? I think that is the best eye that I have ever done, to be honest with you. And finally, what I'm going to do with my ultra fine thing is to do some color correction right there. You see, you don't get to see the other eye, so I didn't paint it. Anyways, for the mouth, we're almost done, so please don't skip the video. At the end I have the pictures of the final result, but I have a really cool announcement in between, so please don't skip it. For the mouth I use like a plain white for the teeth, and for the mouth I use the red that we use on the dress. It's diluted enough so I can do the contour of the mouth, and just to cover that work I use Vallejo gloss varnish, and I apply it with a little brush to make the lips and the eyes like super shiny and pop more. And that is it, guys. That's the entire model. Like I'm applying the varnish right here, you see, and on the eyes make sure that you don't leave a lot of the varnish at the bottom, otherwise you're gonna make your model look like it's crying. Okay, I hope you guys have loved this model. I loved it a lot. Like I said, I have a big announcement. And here is the blessed base. So this was painted with Tamiya black X1, and then I apply a shiny metallic black coat of the same brand, Abeier, Abeier, and cover it finally with metal varnish. Alright, so I have a big announcement to make. The name of this, what you have in your screen, is a 3D designer. His name of this guy is Alberto Gaona. He's a Mexican designer. He lives in Mexico City, and he has beautiful, but truly beautiful, amazing models. Models that are in a different category because they're just simply different, right? So for example, if I'm going to be, and the announcement is that I want to thank Alberto Gaona. Thank you so much, my friend. He sent us the STL file so I can print this model. The name of this model is called Montserrat 12. And I'm very excited. That's the next model that I'm going to be building. Probably I'm going to start printing that model on Monday. And I'm going to upload the video on my YouTube channel because it's really worth it. So he has his Facebook page. I'm going to leave on the description of the video his Facebook page if you guys want to connect with him. His cult page called 3D Page, his regular website, and his fundraise page also. You can get the models anywhere on these 4 pages. They're really cool. He has like a 6 or 8 different models. They're not that many, but what I want to tell you guys, what I'm showing you right now is the cults page, and you see that we have 2 blur squares on the right side, and that's because there's the NF non-safe for work model, so the adult version pretty much, right? So that's why they're blurred. So if you got whoever is watching this video that is not an adult, so don't click on those, just click on the regular ones. Now, what I want to say about this, he has made models out of the normal. For example, if you guys think about Wicked or CA Studios, which are some of the most popular, or Sanix 3D, or LAI Figures, or CES, it's always the same. It's DC or it's Marvel and it's superheroes, and that's about it. Like the designers are there, guys. It's getting boring. Like I gonna take out my eyes off because it's always the same. And there are some studios out there that they're just like they don't, like, for example, and I don't like to talk bad about anybody, but CA Studios the other day came out with Felicia, like last month. It's like a cat or something, a cat woman, some kind of stuff like that. That same model, the same pose, the same base, everything is exactly the same from these guys from ES Monsters. And ES Monsters released that model 2 years ago. Like, give me a break, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, getting back to Alberto, he has fresh ideas, fresh models, like a break with the norm, you know. For example, this one is called the Last Keys. It reminds me like some kind of Walking Dead or Resident Evil. I would love to have this model hanging right over my desk, you know, put like a nice piece of rope or a chain or something. And I think that it is refreshing to see something this different, you know. The quality of his models, the level of detail is impressive. The eyes that he makes the contour of the eye. So if you guys are not really good with eye, he's designing or the inside of the eye, so it's easier for you guys to paint it. Another thing that I wanted to say about these models is that I don't recommend these for beginners, and the reason why is because the level of detail of the model is just like it's hard. It's just hard. I think that anybody that will pay one of these models is gonna find it really challenging in a good way, if that makes sense. On his Facebook and his fundraise me and the other page, it shows how the model is broken by parts, so you can see how many parts are you gonna have to print, blah blah blah, and the position of the models. For example, this one, the Montserrat 12, she's like a kind of laying, so if you have a small printer, you can really print a very big model. And if you are trying to display, you know that most of the display cases are like 12 feet between shelves, so you can print something really big and it will fit there, because one is on her knees and the other one is laying down, so it's like a wider rather than taller, if that makes any sense. So please guys, if you check his page out, I do really suggest you to get one of their models. Like I said, they're refreshing, there's something different, it's out of the boring DC Marvel kind of thing. Like, I don't know how many times I have painted the Batman, Spider-Man and Superman, for real. So check Alberto, and my only request to Alberto would be like, man, get to it and start making more models for us, because they are amazing. Alright guys, so we're almost at the end of the video. I have some pictures to show you of the final result of Jessica Rabbit. I just have another announcement to make. Soon I'm coming up with my Buy Me a Coffee, which is like so you guys can support me, make donations. If it's within your possibilities. I would love if you could support my channel so I can buy more resin, more paint, because now I've been doing a lot of these videos, and it's something that I didn't have in mind when I started doing this. So you will help me in a big way. I could get a better printer so I can give you better quality, a better camera, because everything is recorded with my phone. So I do apologize if the video is kind of shitty. A better microphone, because I'm using like a headset, pretty much like a refurbished headset from an old call center kind of thing. So that will help me immensely. I won't put the link yet. Well, I will put the Buy Me a Coffee link now, but in the future, every person that donates to my cause, if we can put it that way, it will receive a free STL that is or have been done by the 3D Modelmania 3D designers. I have a very nice team of 3D designers that work with me for you guys, and we're coming up with, for example, the Princess Peach model, Vegeta, for those that like Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta killing Goku, and Michael Jackson on the Way You Make Me Feel, and all kind of fun, amazing models will be available for you guys there for free if you can support me. If you guys cannot support me, don't worry about it. I will highly appreciate if you guys can leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell or click on the bell so you can receive my notifications, and share my work with others and share the love. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video so much. I enjoyed a lot by making it, and this is it. Thank you, and I leave you with Jessica Rabbit. Bye bye.